Welcome back to my channel and a very special welcome if you're new here. My name is Jen and this is Jen Clayton Beauty. We do everything beauty and makeup, and that includes testing new makeup. And today we're actually testing out every makeup product that I received in my Ipsy/BoxyCharm for August. And I have a mascara that I got in a different subscription box that we're gonna test out today as well. So this is a big testing new makeup. So if you're excited, give this video a big thumbs up. Subscribe if you're not, turn your bell on, because I do lots and lots of videos every single week, and I always test out all of the new makeup I either purchase or get in subscription boxes every single month. I will link all of the makeup down below for you if you'd like to pick any of these products up for yourself, as well as the Ipsy Boxy subscription. I'll have a link down below for you. I'll also have my favorite beauty boxes, all of the makeup that I'm wearing today, if you would like to shop the completed look, discounts to my favorite indie brands, and come follow me on TikTok for more beauty and makeup. So tool to test out today. All I've done so far is my skincare. I haven't even put my primer on. We'll do that together because we're actually going to be testing out a foundation. So in my Ipsy box, I received the Glowish by Huda Beauty Skin Tint in the shade Tan Light. Now this should be my shade based on my profile because supposedly Ipsy goes off of my profile. Now I know that the Glowish line is no longer. I talked about that in my unboxing video. If you missed the unboxing video, I'll have it down below for you, but we're gonna test this out as today's foundation. And for today's powder, we're gonna use the Makeup Forever HD Skin Twist and Light powder. Now this is an interesting product. I actually had to Google how to use it because it's pretty confusing. Actually, the reviews were that the packaging is horrible. So I'm excited to use the powder though. It's supposed to really blur the skin and give you a little bit of luminosity and glow. We're gonna use the brushes that came in Ipsy from the brand Life. These are really nice quality. I'm actually going to use the highlighter brush with you guys today, and we'll even test out this other brush when I do my concealer. We'll kind of do almost the full face together, and then we have all of the eye brushes. I also have a bronzer from Pat McGrath, also from my Ipsy box. So this is a powder bronzer. I will do cream bronzer, cream blush, and then I always top my set face underneath over the cream products with powder. So I'm excited to test out the Pat McGrath bronzer. Like I said, I have a mascara. This is the full sleeve mascara from KVD, and this came in a different subscription box, and I set it aside for a testing new makeup, so we're gonna use that. And then lastly, for our eyeshadow palette is the Il Makiage Color Boss Master Palette. I also mentioned in my unboxing that I didn't love the last Il Makiage palette that I received. It was like, I think a 4-pan or 6-pan. This actually swatched really nicely. So I have high hopes that this is going to translate on the eyes as beautiful as it swatched. It's just a very neutral palette, very heavy duty, very luxe, feeling like Il Makiage palettes are. Like I said, I just hope that it performs a little bit better than the last one. So let me zoom you in and let's get started. Like I said, I've done all of my skincare, and for my primer, I've been using the e.l.f. Jelly Pop primer. Mine is just about gone. Actually, I just heard it make the I'm almost gone sound. So I probably have maybe 1 or 2 more uses, but I actually like this primer. It's very hydrating. It's the perfect sticky, so it keeps your makeup in place. Now let's test out the Glowish Skin Tint. Now this says specifically that it's a skin tint. So I'm imagining that it's going to be light coverage, possibly buildable to medium coverage. So I'm going to pump a couple of pumps on my hand. The shade honestly looks pretty good. It even looks like it has a little bit of glow, a little bit of luminosity. I mean, it is called Glowish, so it's possible that that is what it's supposed to do, is give your skin kind of that pretty glow from within. So I always tap my foundation out with a brush first. This is the brush from Tarte, and I'm going to just tap that into the skin. Now it is a little bit dark for me. Now if I was self-tanned, which I'm not right now, this would be the perfect shade, but I think it's going to be fine. I'm just going to blend it out, diffuse it out. But I would say that it is maybe 1 shade too dark if you look at my neck and my face. But if I was self-tan, like I said, I think it would be the perfect shade. Then I always go with a damp beauty sponge just to pick up any excess product, make sure there's no brush strokes. This is looking beautiful on the skin. It's beautiful. I mean, it's definitely a light to medium coverage. I can still see some of my discoloration through the skin tint, but it's a skin tint, so it's not supposed to be full coverage like a foundation. But honestly, it looks really nice, and after blending it out, diffusing it out with my beauty sponge, it's definitely a better match to my skin. I think once I set my face with powder, it's going to work just fine. So far, first impression, I really like this. I do, of course, want to wear it throughout the day today, see how it wears. At the end of the video, I will give you a wear test of everything I tested today, but my first impression of the Glowish skin tint is really good. I like the little bit of glow that it gives to my skin. Gave me enough coverage, feels really nice on the face. So I'm using my Natasha Denona High Glam Concealer, and then, like I said, I want to test out this brush that, in my opinion, it's an odd shape for an eye brush, but I think it's going to be really nice for a concealer brush. I'm going to use this to first just pack my concealer under my eye, and I do usually just tap some of the excess product on the other parts of my face that I would put concealer. Since I'm almost 49, I go a little lighter handed with concealer than I did when I was younger. A little too much concealer when you're older is not necessarily a good thing. And then I always go in with my beauty sponge again and blend that out. So I felt like that brush worked really well as a concealer brush. It's not as soft as my regular concealer brush that I use, but it is the perfect size and shape to really get in there and pack in that concealer. Normally I set my under eyes with my e.l.f. powder, but I do want to use the Makeup Forever powder, and I want to use this all over my face to set my under eyes as well as setting my entire face. I'm going to do my under eyes with you now, and then I'm going to do my cream bronzer, cream blush, and then we'll set the rest of our face with the powder. So the component of this is interesting. So you screw off the top lid, and this is what it looks like. And then on the bottom, turn the base of this to release the powder. And it kind of collects in the bottom. So for me, I'm going to pop a little in the lid, so you can see the powder in there to be able to pick it up a little easier. And then with my little sponge, I'm going to set my under eye. Now I am kind of particular on the powder I use on my under eyes. It's usually the e.l.f. because I feel like a lot of other powders for me really settle into my fine lines and wrinkles. Now this one, it looks pretty good. I feel like I picked up a lot of the green colored powder in here, so I feel like I have a little green tinge under my eyes, but I think if I just pack that in, we should be able to diffuse that out. But upon first impression, it looks pretty good. It does look the slightest bit crepey, where my e.l.f. powder is just smooth and beautiful. This is the e.l.f. powder I use. It's always down below. It's the HD powder, the pink one. Yeah, this is definitely a little bit crepey under my eyes. Let me see if you guys can see that. You can see it's just settling a little bit in my fine lines. I don't love that. So for me, this is probably not a powder I would use under the eyes, but we'll see how it performs on the rest of my face. But this, holy grail if you're aging or have aging under eyes. So I'm going to do my cream bronzer, cream blush, and I'll be back. We'll set our face with the Makeup Forever powder and test out that Pat McGrath bronzer. So I've done cream bronzer, cream blush. Like I said, all of the other makeup I'm wearing will be in the description box if you're interested. And now on my Beauty Blender Puff, this is what I usually use for powder. Let's try this Makeup Forever powder to set my face. It's definitely very green leaning. I feel like mine is dispensing a lot of the green tinted powder. And I'm just kind of tapping that in, just setting all of my face. I don't know how I feel about this powder. Like I said, I feel like it gives my skin like a green tint. And I don't know if you can see, but it is just like patchy on my skin. It's not really sinking in. I'm really hoping when I set this with setting spray, it'll just sink it into my skin, but I don't know how I feel about it. My skin feels set, but it's also like just sitting there in patches. I'm going to tap it in a little bit more, see if I can fix that. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about it. Let's see what happens with setting spray, but we are gonna test out the Pat McGrath bronzer. Now, I'm excited for this because it was a choice item. As it came in my Ipsy box, I typically don't buy Pat McGrath. It's super expensive, and honestly, I think drugstore bronzers can be just as good, but since it's in my box, it looks like a good shade for me. Let's test it out. Alrighty, I'm gonna tap that right over where I put my cream bronzer. I really like the shade of this. This is really pretty. It's very warm toned, which is what I prefer in bronzer. It blends out really nicely, diffuses out, doesn't just sit on the skin. skin. Actually looks really good. I love the shade. The shade is perfection. So I really like the bronzer. I think the bronzer looks really nice. Definitely warmed up my skin. The powder, I feel like kind of gave my skin more of a paler appearance, because remember the foundation or the skin tint was a bit dark. And this, because of the green, I think it's the green that's just making me feel pale. This really helped just warm back up my skin. So this I really like. I can see myself using this a lot. Let's go ahead and do our blush together, because I do want to test out that brush for my highlighter that came in Ipsy. So I'm going to use my Fenty Beauty blush in Juicy Peach. I love this blush. I think this is going to pair perfectly with the eyeshadow palette, and this is one of my favorite blushes. It's so beautiful, and it adds a little bit of luminosity. It's like a glowy blush, so if you're not a highlighter person, this is beautiful if you don't want to add a highlight, and it just sinks into the skin. It's such a beautiful blush. Definitely worth the money. And then one of my favorite highlighters, the Too Faced Moon Crush highlight. This is so beautiful. So I'm going to use the brush that came in the brush kit from Life or Lif, and I'm going to just buff that on the skin. Isn't that gorgeous? It's so pretty, and it just sinks into the skin and gives you just this really pretty, just glow from within. I really like this brush for highlight. This one I feel like is much softer than the one we used for concealer, working really well just to blend that into the skin. So here is what our base is looking like. Let me go ahead and set my face with setting spray, do my brows, and I'll be back to test out the Il Makiage palette. So once I set my face with setting spray, the powder looks a lot better. It really helped it sink into the skin. I don't see the weird like greenish color powder on my skin anymore. It's not my favorite powder in the whole world. Would I pay full price and buy this powder? Probably not, but I'll use it because it really was good when I set my face with that setting spray. It just really, again, sunk it all into the skin. And overall, I think my base looks very good, considering this is a new foundation and a new powder. Oh, and a new bronzer. So we have lots of new complexion products. So for the eye look, I'm going to use my MAC Paint Pot in Painterly. I'm going to use one of my regular brushes since there's not a flat brush in this little brush set, but we will test out all of the other eye brushes. So I'm going to use the biggest, most fluffiest brush in the pack, and we've got 4 mattes and 4 shimmers. Now our mattes are pretty deep. We've got this pinky tone matte, this kind of orange leaning matte, and these 2 really dark mattes. So there's not a light matte, which I like to see in a palette. We've got 2 mid-tone and 2 dark, and we have 2 light shimmers. So I don't know why they didn't do 1 lighter matte as well. So I think I'm going to pick up the pinky colored matte first. And I'm going to pop that into my crease and bring that a little bit above my crease. Now these swatched really nicely, very pigmented. They were very buttery soft. I do, however, feel like I'm having to go back in a few times to get enough pigment. And like I said, this is a mid-tone matte. And it's coming off pretty light, more like a light tone matte. And that was the issue that I had with the Il Makiage palette before. It wasn't very pigmented, and it took a lot of work to build it up, and I kind of get the vibe that I'm gonna have to do that with this palette, just keep going back in to that shadow. Now I will say that it looks nice once I was able to build it up, but like I said, it took a lot of work to get it to build up and get it to be this opaque, but overall it blended out beautifully. It looks really nice. So I'm going to go in with the smaller fluffy brush, and I'm going to pick up the more orange leaning shade, and I'm going to put that right in the crease just to deepen up the crease. I'm not going to bring it above the crease, just so we can see that pink shade when my eyes are open. I just want to use this to add a little more depth. Again, I'm going back in multiple times to get pigmentation, and honestly, this color is not very pigmented. I'm not even really seeing it on the eye. I mean, it is deepening up my crease, but that's partially because it's layering over that first shade, and I'm really just like packing it in there. The mattes so far are not my favorite, but we are gonna test out the darker matte. So we've got kind of more of a pinky purple dark matte and more of just a traditional brown matte. I think because I use the pink in my crease, I'm going to pick up the more pinky purple. And again, that's on this kind of more flat brush that came in this set. And I'm going to pack that on my outer corner. There we go. Now we're getting some pigment. I was a little nervous at first. When I first tapped it on my eye, there was literally nothing. I mean, and it's still taking a lot of work. This is my 4th time going into this matte. Now, I know this isn't an indie palette where you just do one tap in and you've got everything pigment-wise, your little heart, whatever desire, but this is a very expensive palette. I wanna say it's over $60. And I personally, so far, just don't think it's performing like a $60 palette. So I was able to build it up. It's pretty. It's a really pretty shade. I'm going to just kind of blend the edges with that first big fluffy brush that we did the crease. I think the end result of the mattes looks really nice, but like I said, it took a lot of work, a lot of dipping back in and just packing on the color, which honestly I'm not used to just because I use so much indie makeup. As always, going in with my NYX glitter glue. I always tap this on my lids before I do my shimmers. I'm going to do finger application and brush application with the shimmers. I have this kind of pencil brush left to try out. I think the first thing I want to do is go into this pinky shimmer. I mean, it looks really pretty to tie in more of the pink. And I'm going to place that on the outer, about 3/4 of my lid. Now this is really beautiful. Yeah, this is really pretty. It's not the most sparkly shimmer in the West. Like, it's not a really foiled shimmer, but it is a beautiful creamy shimmer. And I was able to build that up using my finger, and it did add that little bit of depth, that little bit of plummy pink to my look. And then using the last brush in the set, we've tried all the brushes, the pencil, I'm going to pick up this kind of pinky lighter shimmer, and I'm going to pop this on the inner portion of my lid, and then I'm going to pull that over to meet the darker pink. Now, this shimmer is absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. It's very sparkly, very, very shimmery on the lid, and really just kind of help brighten up the inner portion of my eye. And then for my lower lash line, I'm gonna pick up the last matte in the palette, the brown, and buff that on my lower lash line. I'm going to stick pretty close to the lash line though, so that I can diffuse that out with a shimmer. Now that brown matte looks really, really nice under my eyes. Definitely very pigmented. Now I haven't tried it out on a big portion of my lid, but on my lower lash line, it performed really nicely. And then I'm going to pick up the other shimmer in the palette I haven't tried, and we'll be trying all the shades that way because this one will be our inner corner highlight, and I'm going to buff that on top of the brown. Now that's really pretty. Definitely gave that smoky under eye. And then like I said, we'll use the final shade, final shimmer in the palette, which is this kind of gold lighter shimmer for the inner corner. Ooh, that's pretty. One final blend with the big fluffy brush. And here is the eye look using the Il Makiage palette. Let me go ahead and do my liner, and then we'll test out the KVD mascara together. So now let's test out that KVD full sleeve mascara. Now mascaras are hard because they need time to kind of become better. As they age, as they're open for a while, they perform better, but we're gonna test this out first impression. I do like the wand. It's a little bit smaller, so you're able to really get in there and pack in the mascara. I really like the brush of this. It's the perfect mix of a big brush and a small brush where I'm really able to get in and put the mascara on my lashes. It's definitely giving me length. I'm curious if I can pull some volume out with the second coat. Let me apply a quick second coat. So the mascara 100% gave me length. I mean, I have pretty long lashes anyways, but it gave me the length that I look for. It doesn't give me volume. I feel like it just is my lashes the way they are. It just added mascara to my lashes. I don't feel like it really gave me any volume. Length, yes. Volume, no. Blackness, yes. Easy to apply, yes. I'm curious to see how this ages, and again, how it kind of dries down and performs throughout the day. But first impression, I like it. I wish it would give a little bit more volume. The length though is on point. So if you're looking for a mascara to give you length, this is definitely going to do that for you. Let me go ahead and pop on a lippy, do something with my hair. Actually just came back from working out, and then I'll be back to go over my final thoughts on this testing new makeup. So here is the final look for today and this testing new makeup. I have not even changed my clothes yet. that is next on my list. But let's go over some first impression, kind of final thoughts on these products. And then, like I said, at the very end, I'll pop up a wear test. So first, the Glowish Skin Tint. I love it. I think it's beautiful. Like I said, I was a little nervous that it was too dark for my skin, but I was able to diffuse it out using my beauty sponge. And then once I set my face to the rest of my complexion products, it's great for my, it's actually a really good match, and it is so glowy and beautiful and natural. I am so excited because I'm almost out of my Wet n Wild skin tint that I've been using. So that one is immediately going to go into the next rotation for skin tint. I really, really like it. And then the Makeup Forever powder. It's okay. It's okay. I actually think my base makeup, my complexion, my skin looks really, really good. And that could be a mix of multiple things. It could be the Glowish, it could be the primer, it could be the powder, it could be the Pat McGrath bronzer, it could be a multitude of things. But overall, I feel like my complexion, my base looks really, really nice, very flawless, very airbrushed. So I think I like this more than I thought that I did. I'm definitely going to continue using this. So you guys will see it in my empties when it's gone. I'll give you a final review, but I don't hate it. And I think as I continue to use it more, and if I can get this flawless looking base, this may be a staple. Absolutely love the Pat McGrath bronzer. Love it. One of my favorite bronzers. It just added the warmth I needed to my skin, but it diffused out and blended out beautifully. Really, really, really love this. I also really like this brush set. The only brush I didn't love is the one that I used for concealer, and maybe it's supposed to be used for something else. Does it say? There's little writing on it. Let me read it. Flawless concealer brush. Okay, so it does say concealer brush. Precision shadow brush, pencil brush, large blending brush, medium blending brush, glow highlighter brush. So good. I used everything the way it was intended to be used. I like the brush that I use for concealer a little bit better, which is the brush from Zoeva, but I'm glad to have this. I do feel like it packed in the concealer really well for me. And the other brushes perform beautifully. Love the highlight brush. Love, love, love the eye brushes. Mascara, I like it. Like I said, gave me tons and tons of volume. I'm excited to see how it continues to perform as it ages, but so far so good on that. And then last but not least is the Little Il Makiage palette. My eye look is beautiful. I think it honestly turned out really, really nice, better than I expected. It just took a lot of work. Like I said, you had to go back in multiple times and build up the shadow to get the opacity. And like I said, I'm used to indie shadow that you just tap it on and you're good to go for the entire, like one swipe in, your eye look is done. But for a mainstream palette, it's not terrible. I personally don't think it's worth $60, $60+. I don't know if this will stay in my collection. We will see. And with my eyeshadow palette declutter at the end of the year, but my eye look, I really, really like it. I just don't know if number one, the color story is unique enough to keep, and number two, if I like the formula enough to keep as well. So we will see what happens. I'll definitely be using it again before I make any decisions. So yeah, that's everything in this testing new makeup. Overall, it was really good. Like I said, I feel like my complexion looks really nice and beautiful and flawless. My eye look, I love. I really like everything that we tested today. Nothing was a complete fail, which is always a good thing. Let me know down below, what do you think of my look? Did you get any of these products in your Ipsy box? And like I said, if you're interested in buying any of the products, I will have them linked in the description box for you for easy shopping. I'll link Ipsy as well as my favorite other beauty subscriptions, all of the other makeup that I'm wearing today, and come follow me over on TikTok for more beauty and makeup. So that's a wrap on another big testing new makeup.